So introductions were all made earlier, and I feel like I'm supposed to actually test the slide dial thing as the first poll. So who is joining us today? And I guess, oh, we see it. It's already up there. Look at that. Technology is just amazing. All right, the second poll, if we could flip to that, is rate from 1 to 5, with 5 being the best, how you feel connected, or how you feel connected, or do you feel to your local police department? 1 to 5, 5 being the best. So, and as you're doing that, I'm gonna kind of sit here and do another slight introduction, if you will. This is really an honor for our mission. When you look at all of the communities that we get to serve at Big Brothers Big Sisters Lone Star, we are really blessed here in Dallas County to have the incredible buy-in of what is an amazing group of leaders and really change. Yes, it matters that it comes from bottom up, but so much of change is set by the tone of the leaders in a community. And we are so blessed in Dallas to have incredible leadership. And so just today, Jenny kind of mentioned some of the people sitting here, but if you guys would real quick, just say your name, say why you know, what your involvement is with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I think it's really impressive. Everybody here has a story and a reason for being here. So we'll start with Chris at the end, if you don't mind.
Good morning, all. My name is Chris Hawkins, actually Wilson. I got married on June 2nd. So I'm Chris Wilson. And I think I see him here. Hey, David. So I'm Chris Hawkins, and I'm a little 33 years. Gail King and I were matched when I was about 8 years old, and she has walked me through every conceivable phase of my life. We were matched at 8. We got into Arts Magnet together. We graduated from Arts Magnet together. Then we went to college in Kentucky, Berea College. We graduated from there. We were high school teachers together, and actually Jay is managing the last school I was a teacher at. Then we went to law school at Thurgood Marshall School of Law. And then she was my matron of honor at my wedding just on June 2nd. So life's been good, but this program has probably been the single most defining change in my life. I believe the difference in a child's success and or failure is exposure and love. And it's not that the kids don't come from loving families, or that I didn't come from a loving family, but I was a child of a single mother and grandmother of 3. And so they were just busy. And so Gail provided the catalyst. Gail was able to, they walked me as far as they could take me, but then they trusted Gail enough to put my hand in hers and allow her to walk me throughout the rest of life and see what I needed to see and be exposed. So I thank you all for being here, and please know you are superheroes and totally unaware of it. The kids need you, and I do too.
My story is not that good. Also, she just showed us some of the pictures from her wedding. Dope. It was beautiful. My name is Byron Sanders. I'm the president and CEO of Big Thoughts. Outside of having big in our names, we are partners and collaborators in philosophy, spirit, and in programs with Big Brothers Big Sisters. I see Christina Dove, Director of Learning Systems with Big Thought, who is largely responsible for building and nurturing this relationship. Pierce and I go back. But the way that we work, our organization, we've been around in Dallas for 30 years, and we started off initially only in exclusively arts education. Fast forward to today, we're one of the largest serving organizations for a city in the country. Our total touch points about 196,000 kids in Dallas each year. And we have a wide range of ways that we serve. One of them is mentoring. And the reason why we do that, we're here to close the opportunity gap, and we believe that you do that for a 21st century world by building the creative muscle. But the other thing that we have to build, the second element for a 21st century workforce economy, is social and emotional well-being. And mentoring is a core aspect of that. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we get into it. But one of the ways that we partnered was this year, actually, we did a big breakfast together over at O.W. Holmes Middle School. And it was an excellent, phenomenal response from the community, including the Dallas Police Department, which we really appreciate.
Your Highness. I asked, by the way, just for the record, I said, TC, who plays such a critical role. Like the fact that we have this group of leaders here, again, it's just our heart is so full of gratitude. I don't know how the city is running right now during the course of this time, because for those of you that know, the mayoral election, the city council is really important, but one of their most important tasks is hiring an amazing city manager. And so out of respect, I said, how would you like to be introduced to the crowd? And TC said, you can call me Your Highness. So, and then he was very quick to say, I'm just kidding, call me TC. So, TC.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am TC Broadnax, the city manager for the city of Dallas, suburb of Plano. Just blessed, one, to be the city manager and feel good about being here this morning. I've been engaged in, not a part of Big Brother and Big Sister, but very early on in my early college life, I was big for a young man. And growing up throughout my own childhood in Topeka, Kansas, mentorship had played a big role in my life. And so obviously I wanted to do the same. And so as a leader of a local government, not just Dallas, but other cities, I've always found it important for me not just to do the role that I've come to do in any community, but also serve outside of my current day job, and spending time with youth, mentoring them has always been important to me. And so when we had the opportunity to partner with Big Brother and Big Sister, one of the things that jumped out at me was the fact that there are some 700 to 800 kids in Dallas proper that are waiting to be matched. And I have the distinct honor and privilege to lead 13,000 employees that work for our city. And I wanted to challenge them, if just a fraction of those employees could find ways to mentor and be a part of this program, we as a city government alone could wipe out that backlog. And so we're trying our best. And I think leading by example was important for me, particularly as busy as or people think that I am, that if I could do it, that I think my other employees would step up. And so I'm on the front lines advocating for participation in this program. We're not quite there, but we're going to push and push and push. And I was just sharing earlier, I've been working over the summer, or actually the wintertime, to transition from the Mentor 2.0 program to the community-based program, so I can spend more time with my little and allow him to see quite a few things and really spend that time that I think I should be spending, even though I've got young ones of my own. But again, I'm just happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you so much. So real quick, the two people next to me certainly need no introduction, but I will just, for some context as it relates to Big Brothers Big Sisters and our partnership with the next two leaders. There was a national initiative about 3 years ago that was created, and it was this goal, this programming goal, to reach out to local law enforcement agencies and create, through one-on-one relationships, better community policing efforts, right? If you look at any organization, real change happens through the power of one-to-one relationship. Now, we were really scared about what that was going to look like in Dallas, and then all of a sudden, we hear an announcement that was made by the gentleman to my right that there was a new Dallas police chief in town. And you cannot understand, this is one of those moments where you feel like God is just giving you a wink and a nudge and saying you're in the right direction, because in Chief Hall's bio, we saw that she was a longtime Big Sister in Detroit, where she formerly came from. And so, and Chief Spivey has been a longtime member of the police force in Irving, which is a very important city in Dallas County. Again, 2 years ago became the police chief, and in a similar way has just been such a champion for our mission. So with that introduction, Chief Hall, if you would kind of introduce yourself, not that people need that introduction.
Oh, good morning. I'm Chief Spivey. Chief Hall.
Dallas Police Department, and I can't say how blessed and honored I feel to actually sit here and represent, one, the Dallas Police Department, but the partnership with Big Brothers Big Sisters. In 2004, in my previous life, the Dallas County Detroit Police Department, we partnered with Big Brothers Big Sisters with a program to partner police officers with children who had one or more incarcerated parents. And what we were seeing was that those children were following the paths of their parents, and we wanted to make a difference. And at that time, it was 2004, I had an 8-year-old, and it changed my life. It wasn't just about spending time at events or games, but she became a part of my family and I became a part of hers. She was at the house for Christmas and Thanksgiving. And what I found from two perspectives, one from a personal perspective, is that I had an opportunity to change the trajectory of someone's life, and she had an opportunity to impact mine greatly. But the other part is I changed the perception of her with law enforcement, because the last picture she saw of law enforcement was the police taking her father away in handcuffs. And so that trauma lasted for quite some time, but it was through our relationship and our relationship building and putting her in touch with the police department, taking her to multiple events, and then getting other police officers and non-sworn individuals in the police department to become mentors, just changed the relationship. And that is what the huge focus for us is, just making sure that we're building partnerships with our community through our youth, because that is our future, and that is the way that we impact what and who we're going to be as a society and as a city as a whole. So I am so excited to be back in this seat, building partnerships, and not only through Big Brothers Big Sisters do we partner, but also I have 3 young ladies that I've met since I've been here in Dallas, and each one of them dressed up as me for different, whether it's Halloween or school events. It's Layla, Lacey, and Journey. And so I spent a lot of time with the 3 of them that I just met in the course of my day-to-day activities, but then building a youth summer jobs program our department has just implemented, and we have 43 15-year-olds who are actually working and partnering and building relationships, and Big Brothers Big Sisters is a part of that as well. So our impact for our youth is so important, and the relationships that we're building and changing the narrative across the country for who we are to our community and to our youth is so important. So I'm just honored to be a part of that and looking forward to continuing to build relationships.
So I'm Jeff Spivey, the Chief of Police in Irving. You know, my journey with Big Brothers Big Sisters started in 2013 after my youngest child went off to college. My wife and I looked around the house and thought, you know, there's nobody left for us to pour into. Our oldest lived in Houston, was married. Our youngest decided he wanted to blaze his own path and went all the way out to the University of Alabama. So it wasn't like we had that constant contact with our kids, and we had that desire to give back to a young person. So we got involved with Big Brothers Big Sisters, had a community match. A young man who was 12 years old, and for about 2.5 years we poured into him. I think what we found is what Big Brothers Big Sisters sees a lot is the mentee gets to a point where this isn't cool or this isn't working for them. And so that match ended, and we looked around and said, okay, what's next? My career was beginning to change at that point, and just kind of took a sideline to what we really wanted to do. Fast forward to 2016, Big Brothers Big Sisters approached us about this program called Bigs in Blue. And that light bulb moment happened. And I wasn't the chief of police at the time, but we started having those conversations with Big Brothers Big Sisters. And when I did become the chief of police, brought them in and said, what does this look like? How can we do this? How do we get involved? from an organizational standpoint. And to TC's point, I think it was important for me to be involved, to lead by example and to prove that, look, if I have the time to do this program, then I know everyone else in the organization has the time. Nobody works as many hours as we do in the organization. Nobody's pulled as in many different directions as we are. And if I can make the time through the Mentoring 2.0 program for a once a month visit to the school, an email exchange or a text message exchange during the week, then I know that every other member of my organization can do that. And the impact that has on our community is immeasurable. We say in policing a lot, you make an impression one interaction at a time. And I know that you've all had encounters with the police, and that encounter has either been positive or negative, but you've shared that story with not only your family, but your friends and your coworkers, and they've formed an opinion about the police based upon your experience, based upon what they heard from you. And so if we can start with our young people and form those positive relationships and form those positive interactions, as they share those interactions with their peers and with their family members, we begin to chip away at that narrative that the police are bad, the police are negative, the police aren't there to help us, and we start that positive relationship. And something that we'll talk about later, I think, in the program is trust, and trust is truly the foundation of what we should be building upon.
Jamil?
Good morning. My name is Jamil Choice, and I'm the principal of New Tech High School in Dallas ISD. My association with Big Brothers Big Sisters happened about 3 years ago, 2016-17, when I received an opportunity to compete for the Mentor 2.0 program on my campus. My office manager came to me and said, hey, I went to this meeting and there's a chance for our school to compete, to have each freshman student partner with the mentor for the upcoming school year. There's a caveat to it. We're going up against 2 other high schools, and I'm a very competitive person. I said, you know what? We're gonna win this partnership. And it was very important for me for us to secure this partnership with them, because I've benefited rather from having a mentor throughout my entire life. When I was a kid, I grew up in a broken home. My mother was addicted to drugs, absentee father. There were teachers who would pick me up from school no matter where I was living at the time in Dallas, with family member, with family friend. My teachers would come take me to school, buy me clothes, make sure I ate. And then also my school at the time partnered with Mobil Oil Corporation for Mobil Pals mentoring program. So I was partnered with a Mobil Pal. So I knew the value of having a mentor and what it would do. And it would really be a game changer for the kids that I served at my campus. And as we transition into the next school year, this will be our 3rd iteration with Big Brothers Big Sisters 2.0. Actually, Mr. Broadnix is one of our mentors for my students. And at first, we were trying to tell him, hey, do you realize who your mentor is? Like, you need to respond to his email. And it still didn't quite register with him. So I had to call him in my office one day and I said, listen, you got a city manager as your mentor. Boy, you better recognize. And so, and as I shared with Mr. Broadnix today, just him being there for the young man, I've seen some change, and I think the fact that he's wanting to transition to what's the program? The community base. That's it. From with that young man will really benefit him even more. So I'm like Chief Hall. I'm grateful, humbled to be here. Just the fact that me having a mentor has really contributed to where I am today professionally, and even sitting on this panel with such esteemed leaders. So I'm grateful to be here.
So don't give the mic up just yet, because I'm gonna pass you a question to kind of start this off, and we won't go too long because the city needs to to be protected. It needs to run on time. But but I'm going to start with you, Jamil. You know, we know at Big Brothers Big Sisters, we've been tracking now for 3 years what happens to our kids when they graduate high school and they're in one of our programs, whether it be Mentor 2.0 or whether it be our community-based program. We're tracking that 86% of them are enrolling in a 2-year or 4-year college. My question to you, though, because you're on the front lines, is what is the difference that you notice from a kid in your school that has a mentor and one that doesn't, but maybe needs one? What just from a frontline observation standpoint, how would you answer that?
That's a great question. I think what I saw initially, which really made me want to partner with the program, was just a lack of intrinsic motivation, a lack of support at home. You know, some of my parents, my students' parents, they work, and they work tirelessly to try to provide for the students. So that emotional support, that, hey, how was your day today? Or did you do your homework, just wasn't there. And so as a result of that, the students did not really care. Or they came to school and it was, I'm just here because I have to be. No real drive to be here. And then also there are parents that are just absentee, just like mine when I was a kid. You know, my mother wasn't there because mentally she just was, you know, not there. She was on drugs and in another place. And so what I've seen, and the difference is the students have someone who can check on them, who can hold them accountable, who let them know on a daily basis, hey, I care about you, I want you to succeed. Expose them to things beyond their limited surroundings, which will then, open up their minds to new possibilities. So as a result, I've seen increased student achievement, better personal and social interactions with teachers and their peers. And so yeah, I think that's pretty much, in a nutshell, they have a drive for school and better social interactions.
Byron, I'm going to go to you next. Just so you know this too, Byron is one of my favorite leaders in Dallas of another partnering nonprofit. I was tasked recently to speak at my grandfather's presidential library, President George H.W. Bush, reflect on his life for something called the Presidential Leadership Scholars. So I need to get the tone of this. So I just randomly Googled videos from the Presidential Leadership Scholarship from previous years, and Byron Sanders shows up in one of his speeches. And the speech was seriously one of the best speeches I've ever seen. And it was followed by my Uncle George here in Dallas, who was following him, whose first words were, after following Byron, were, damn. Which is, should have a former president of the United States say, damn, and then say, well, so this is the underwhelming part of the program now, instead of the highlight. It's just a testament to how highly I think of Byron. So Byron, what made Byron Sanders? Do you have a mentoring story from your own youth, just out of curiosity?
Right. I feel like I gotta give like a superhero origin story now, bro. I am who I am because of the shoulders I stand on. And all the people who've invested in me, including my mentors. And so my personal story actually has to do with why this stuff is really important. And I think we all kind of understand the relational aspect of it. But there's a scientific and anatomical reason why this work needs to take place and needs to expand. It's because of trauma. So growing up, I grew up in Southern Dallas. We moved around a little bit. We got more stable as my mom moved further up in her career, but early on, it was tough. Oak Cliff, Pleasant Grove, DeSoto, we moved around a bit. But I had two parents at home, but oftentimes I wished I didn't. My father was abusive to my mother, and he would attack her on a regular basis. And from a very early age, some of my earliest memories are of violence. One of the things that I remember taking on as a responsibility is to protect my mom. And think about that as a 6-year-old, saying I have to protect my grown, mom from a grown man who also was the same guy who was my coach, tickler, taught me to read, So imagine all of the confusion that's going on right there for that kid, right? And what's interesting is oftentimes we talk about, troubled youth or kids from urban environments who are in trouble and things like, I had straight A's. I was involved in everything. The reason why I was involved in everything is because I was always looking for something else to bring home that was positive. I was looking for a sticker, a medal, a trophy, a hug, anything I could bring home, because what I noticed very early on was that if you bring home good news, then dad's happy. When dad's happy, he doesn't attack my mother. So it's amazing, even the kids that you think got it squared away, got it really going on, you have no idea where they came from. The things that shape us, the trauma I was dealing with that I wasn't able to reconcile until I got to be an adult. The thing that allowed me to make it through and to choose the direction that I chose as opposed to the one that my brother did, because we grew up in the same household. My brother is on disability now, and he's gotten his life together. I'm so proud of him. He's just gotten into a program where he's going to be a radiology technician. So proud of him. He's going to school in Amarillo, but he's a year and a half older than me. He just got there. He went through drug use, drug sale, set himself on fire one time because he had a breakdown. Like he chose that path. What was the difference? It was a relationship. It was a series of relationships that I had with mentors who gave me a pathway or a window to a future where I could be the photo negative of my father as opposed to the exact copy. And because of that relationship, that mentorship, that is why I am who I am today.
It's awesome. Chris, do you want to, I know you did this in your intro, but before we go to the organization, just again, I'm curious about what you're seeing trend-wise in the DA's office, but I'm also curious about your experience. You've so eloquently said before just how your big sister, encouraged you and held you accountable, made you, when you wanted to drop out from college, said, you will do this. And so, I don't know, just a little bit on your own kind of childhood experience.
Okay, so to be quite honest, so I believe I said earlier, as a mother, my mom had 3 daughters, and all 3 of us had bigs. Chief Hall, my older sister is Detective Tamika McLeod. She's in your Public Integrity Unit. She's been there 20 years. I'm at the Dallas County DA's office. I'm the chief of the Mental Health Unit. I've been there 10 years. And the baby girl is Keedy Hawkins. She's at one of the supervisors in the towers at Lucera for, I guess, almost 20 years. And we grew up in such a rough and tumble style neighborhood and fatherless, and just 3 little girls kind of out there. And she saw a need. She worked 9 to 5 and 6 to 10. My grandmother was president of the usher board and all those things, so they did all they could. However, something was still missing. And they had 2 options. They would have raised 3 possible, prostitutes, with just women in the streets, kind of living in the neighborhood and becoming the West Dallas that we grew up in, or they saw this as an opportunity for us to do something more. And very, very true in what he just said was the difference in who we are. I believe it's our relationships. So Tamika's big sister was Annette, my big sister was Gail, and Keedy's big sister was Shirley. But I think the magic in my relationship is because I grew up in West Dallas, and when the police came to your home, they were taking your dad and your brother and your cousin because something awful is happening. You're gonna see him go away for a long time. Or when a white person came to your house, they were coming to take the kids because you've done something wrong and your rights were being stripped as a parent. Why is this white woman here? What did your mama do? And I was like, what are you talking about? She's here for me and she's here to help. And then I just became exposed. I believe she saw early on, because I was blessed with the Cosby Show in a different world when I was growing up. I became influenced. And I want to grow up and be Claire Huxtable. So she started to introduce me to Claire Huxtables. She let me touch and feel Black, wealthy people that had never been to jail. They didn't have roaches at their house. They were educated. Just all those things that I didn't know existed. And so she just poured and poured and poured into me. She held me accountable. Pierce was talking about, I wanted to drop out of school. It got hard. I'd never been away from home. And I was in Kentucky. So I called home in tears, blubbering involved, telling my mom I want to come home. So my mom was on the line and she says, you can come home. those people don't have to do you like that. When is your paper due? Oh my God, it's so hard. And my grandmother was on the line too. And she says, well, okay, I just need you to call Gail. And immediately the tears dried up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Gail's my mentor, not my mom. I'm asking you. She says, no, just call Gail and let us know. And so, of course, I expected the same sympathy from Gail. I don't know why. And so I was calling and telling, I was telling her how hard it was and how unfair, and everyone knows so much more than I do. And she let me cry, and she listened, and she said, Chris, you went to school, you didn't go to visit the place. You went to college to get a degree. And I'm gonna hang up the phone because you're not coming home without one. And so, I had to pull it together, and she says, go ahead and cry and feel very sorry for yourself tonight. But you're gonna get up tomorrow and you're gonna finish this thing. And so of course now she'll tease me when I'm calling. She's like, oh God, tell me you don't want to drop out of law school. Oh God, tell me. But now at the DA's office, so to your point about the trends I'm seeing, what I noticed, so I was a teacher prior to working at the DA's office, and I could see myself and those kids were missing something. He says that there's a scientific and an anatomical part to this one-to-one mentoring relationship, and it is. Because you don't know who you are. Someone's going to tell you. And you can listen to someone tell you positively who you are strong, you are good, you are blessed, God has things in store for you, you are so smart. Or you'll see someone to say, hey, you want to sell this? Oh, you did a good job, boy. So put this in your bag and take this here or there. One of two things are going to happen, and it's nothing in between. And so the trend that I'm noticing is the kids are missing touch. The kids are missing positivity. The kids are missing communication, and it's coming in the form of a gang. It's coming in the form of beating and raping women. You hate your mom, not understanding that she has to work. She's not choosing to be away from you. Your mom is working all day long. So all of that confusion is manifesting itself in violent and criminal ways, and I am there fighting daily, trying to do something different. So again, I say, this is the single most important relationship in my life, other than my mom birthing me. But this is definitely it. I believe this is the difference in success and failure for a child. This one-to-one mentor relationship.
It's amazing, Chris. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I love our new branding because it calls out the dignity of our mission. We say we're not saviors for kids. We are defending the God-given potential that exists in every single child. And it changes the context. One of the reasons I like it so much is that when you ever meet a big who's been in our program and the match has worked out and whatever else, they will say, you know, Pierce talking to me, I feel like my life has changed more through doing this than actually the life of my little. Now the outcomes we measure are all about our littles, but the big's reflection on it, it just expresses the true dignity. So now going to our partners who are just amazing leaders. Again, since I said who my grandfather was, I just can't tell you how much hope I have when I can interact with leaders like DC Broadnex and Chief Hall and Chief Spivey. These are good people in really tough jobs, and I think we should all, as citizens of this community and whatever else, be just so grateful that we have good people that not only just go out on stage and say mentoring is important, but actually do it. All three of these individuals with incredibly busy schedules are doing that. Start with you, TC. What from an employee morale perspective have you seen, have you noticed when your employees are engaged in things like Big Brothers Big Sisters or active in the community, and, getting out there, getting, as my grandfather said, their jersey dirty in a volunteer way?
I think when you think about the nature of public service, as I tell all of the employees that I get to interact with, particularly those who have been with an organization for quite some time, when you sign up to do that type of work, to go work for the community you either live in or in the region in a local government, you sign up to do good things, to give more of yourself, because something is empowering you to want to go out and not just blaze trails for your own legacy, but to make your community better. And when I have that conversation and I talk to them about how things may change once you get in an organization, and that that little bright flicker in your eye starts to dim because of the day-to-day things that you have to do, that you always got to find your why. And when you think about cities, particularly with the people who want to work for communities, you think about everything that a city does, and as we talk today, it always comes back to kids and youth, whether it's the chief talking about the interactions that they want to have with police to find ways to make sure that the youth feel good about law enforcement, and then they can grow up and feel comfortable and understand that they are protected by law enforcement, and law enforcement is someone who is not the enemy, but someone who is there to ensure that you can fulfill your dreams in some cases because you don't have to worry about certain kinds of things. When you think about parks and recreation, it's fundamentally you want to find ways to make sure kids have places to go that are safe. When you think about streets and sidewalks, we want to make sure kids don't have to walk in the street. You know, when you think about all the other things that we do as a city, it always comes back to kids, whether it's planning and design and zoning. It's about safety and compatibility and all of those things when you think about it. And so I tell my employees as I talk about Big Brother and Big Sister, and they know me and they know my weak spot. I said there's two types of people that I don't allow anybody to mess with. And that's kids and senior citizens. You can be as mean and disrespectful as anybody else in them other ranges, because that's what the world is. You mess with kids, and you do anything to seniors, we're gonna have a problem. And I've seen when my employees, particularly those who have been engaged, we've got an individual who just retired from our city a few months ago, if not a year, time flies in city manager time, who has been a big for 20 plus some odd years, Dale, and I forget his last name. Y'all know Dale, right?
Dale Long. I'm surprised
Dale
Dale's
Long.
not here, by the way.
And he's still checking on me to make sure I'm a big, but it's that kind of commitment. And he was a city employee and a governmental employee equally as long as he was a big. And so my individuals that I talk with, particularly those who are bigs, they are committed because they're there for kids that they don't even get to participate in a mentoring program with in their daily works. But when they can connect with an individual one-on-one, it is gratifying to them because they, again, want to find ways to make sure that they can help kids understand how important it is to believe in themselves and be reassured that they can do great things. And oh, by the way, you can always come and have a career right in your local community and be a local government public servant. And so again, I think that's the connectivity for me. I think for our employees is to really share their experiences, but also open them up to a world of local government where I often say we've got some 400 to 500 different job classifications in the city. You can do anything that you go to college for. You can ultimately come back to a local government and pretty much do those things and find ways to benefit your community. So again, they're opening doors for kids, but I think as we all can attest, it really does more for you in some respect than the child, because you really can feel that you're really helping someone, and it makes you feel good, but also again, I think the parents that really need that extra help, because as some have said, parents get home, you know, they got so much going on, and I'm guilty of that too. I actually had to commit to my wife that I was going to devote tonight to her because she was mad at me because I was 20 minutes late saying I was going to go to bed early, but I'm up working, so I know 4 hours for 20 minutes, that just does not work out. But neither here nor there. Mentorship, I share a lot. I don't have compelling stories. I just have real, you know, menial issues that go on. Thank you, I'm sorry. It's like my Oprah moment. I'm on stage.
I know. You're not even on the couch. We need DC to be on the couch. Turn this into a therapy session. I love it. To the two honorable police chiefs, again, this is my perspective. I've never been a police officer myself. You see an incident like what happened on Monday, and I as just a public citizen, am just so grateful that there are people, and when something like that happens, they run towards something like that. I mean, really. I do think God made people and gave certain gifts. And again, we're not placing things in kids that already there. We're already just defending it. But I'm so grateful that God made police officers. So, with that said, I think it's from my perspective, a really stressful job. How do you ask police officers who are out in the communities doing this work to come, walk alongside a kid, which is also really important? How does that, and how when they do that, have you seen the morale improve and all that?
What stress?
It's just the police chiefs. They're not distracted.
No, it's true that what we do in law enforcement is very challenging, not only to us, but to our families as well. And there is a national narrative that we fight as well, that regardless of the good we do, that we are out here shooting unarmed individuals. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in small instances, but it doesn't define who we are as law enforcement. So the importance of building those relationships, it's immeasurable. But what it does for the officers' morale is when we connect to our community, especially our youth, we're able to see that twinkle in their eye that says they believe in us, that they understand the work that we do, they trust us, and we're then able to allow them to see who we are. Because I think oftentimes the community forgets, youth forgets. We're people. We wear this uniform by day, but we're wives, we're husbands, we're children, we have sisters and brothers, and we're just plain old human beings, and that we need the love, we need the support. And so when we're able to then tie our lives to individuals, especially our youth, we're able then to pour into them who we are. And then and we're able to get back from them the love, the respect, and that true meaning of law enforcement. Because I don't care who you are, male or female, everybody wanted to be the police. You played cops and robbers. You don't have to admit it in this room. But we all wanted to be that police officer, that firefighter. We had a desire to take care of those who couldn't take care of themselves, even when we were little. And so for those of us who do this, and you may want to add to this, Chief Spivey, we do it, and sometimes it's thankless, but when we're able to connect to those young people and get that love and that respect, and they get to truly find out who we are, I think it truly makes a difference for our whole community and for our nation as a whole.
Absolutely, thank you, Chief Hall. 2014, the Irving Police Department developed a credo that we still live by at our training academy, and it's work hard, live hard, die hard. And hard is healthy, altruistic, resilient, and dedicated. And I teach a class with all of our incoming recruits about this hard concept that we talk about. And when we talk about altruism, you naturally think, well, I'm a police officer, I'm willing to die for somebody I don't know, I'm already selfless. It's beyond that. And what I try to get our men and women to understand is when you're giving back to your community, not just as a police officer, but as a human being, when you're investing in other people, when you're demonstrating that altruistic spirit, it's the vaccine for cynicism. And I don't know if anyone recognizes it or not, but cops tend to be cynical. We get into the job thinking we're going to save the world, thinking we're going to help people, and about 2 years in, we recognize, man, nobody wants my help. I can't save the world. And so I begin to develop this cynical attitude because 90% of my interactions are all negative with people. My bosses have trained me only to look for the negative. I don't look for people who are following the law. I look for people who are breaking the law. And so we develop this cynicism and this jaded personality in our police officers when we can get them to invest in other people through programs like Mentor 2.0, Bigs in Blue, the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, whichever program you choose to take, when you're pouring into the youth in a community, you're breaking down that cynicism. It's impossible to have a cynical attitude when you're giving back to a kid. When you're mentoring that kid, helping that kid navigate life, that cynicism melts away, and our police officers benefit just as much from those relationships as our mentees do.
So our time is limited, and I want to be very respectful of these incredible leaders and also the leaders in the audience. So I'm going to ask one question, and this is going to kind of be on the spot, and then we'll wrap it up, and just everybody can think about how they'd answer this. Again, amazing purview into the greater Dallas community here with the leaders here. I'm curious, and again, we're here to Bigs in Blue Summit, and volunteerism, stepping up, seeing a problem, doing something about it is just such a part of our mission. So my question to you all, and you don't have to plug mentoring necessarily, although if you want to, you can. But as leaders in your different roles, what is one thing you wish, and again, we're streaming this on Facebook and whatever else, but what is one thing you wish that the local greater Dallas community would do, either from an empathetic standpoint, from a volunteerism standpoint, but to create real, meaningful, positive change in this community in the next couple of years? Just one thing. We don't have to go down the line, but Jamil, you want to go first?
The first thing that comes to mind is just, and I know you say we don't have to plug mentorship, but as someone who's benefited firsthand from having a mentor, I really attribute a lot of my success and where I am in life as a result of the relationships that I developed with my mentors as a kid growing up. As a principal, I see children day in and day out with no guidance. Their parents are doing the best that they absolutely can, but a lot of times that's not enough. These young people are our future city managers, future chiefs, and without guidance, I'm kind of concerned about, our future. When I become 80, who's going to be leading me? Who's going to be our president? Who's going to be my city manager, chief of police? And so we need as many people as possible to serve as vessels to these young people, to provide that guidance, to build those relationships, to expose them to things beyond their surroundings, and instill in them that they can be great. They don't give up when you get to college and the papers are limitless, or you have a hard time transitioning in a new city, or we just need more people to pour positivity into our students. And that's the difference between a student being successful in life or a student being a dropout, taking down the wrong path. It could have went either way for me. I grew up in South Dallas. Mother addicted to drugs. I've lived in the Salvation Army. I've seen things as a kid. I flushed crack down the toilet, all because I didn't want my mother to get high. But I had something to look forward to and someone looking over me. Not just God, but I had a mentor, someone who cared about me and who had a vested interest in me being successful in life. And I persevered through all of that. And now I'm 34 years old, a high school principal. My very first principalship was a high school. That's not normal, especially in Dallas ISD. They take you through the ranks, elementary, middle, and high school. But what that did, having a mentor just instilled an innate drive inside of me to be successful because I had that person to look to as the possibility. I had pockets of greatness in my family. My uncle was a fireman. My other uncle was an entrepreneur, but they had families. They lived in the suburbs, so they weren't necessarily real to me. They cared about me, but they had their families. But I had a mentor who sat down and asked me, "How are you doing? What are your plans? Senior year's coming up. Are you going to go to college? What do you want to do with your life? Also, you want to be a businessman. Well, this is what it takes. Without that, I'm not sure where I would be, you know. So my wish is that the greater Dallas community, you know, takes time to invest into the youth, because that's our future. And without the guidance and without positive affirmations and people pouring into them, I'm not so sure what the future entails for the city of Dallas.
Co-signing on a lot of what Choice is saying. I would actually say the thing that I want Dallas to leave with is I want Big Brothers Big Sisters to go out of business. I want Big Thought to go out of business. I want a world where we don't need to create these programs and make investments that have to work against the tide of what society as it's built created. And I'll be really honest with you. A lot of the challenges that we see and the fact that, you know, we have to, what I would love for us to do is to embrace truth. Because in Dallas, as in cities across this country, you know, we are a segregated community. We're divided. And it didn't happen just by accident, right? These are structural things that have been set up for years and years and years that currently, presently exist. So what I would love is for people to embrace their necessity to get involved and create the buffers that allow us to persist and to thrive in the midst of the segregation and the institutional structural racism, the income inequalities that we have, like Big Brothers Big Sisters, like Big Thought, that help us deal with the lack of opportunity being available to all kids everywhere. Get involved in organizations right now to help kids right now, to help find out solutions, test hypotheses, figure out what works. But the insights that we gain from that, we should be using that to advocate for policy that needs to change. We should be using that to get behind the things that TC and our city council is trying to do with creating affordable housing, comprehensive housing strategies that disperse and diffuse poverty, so we don't have concentrated pockets of poverty where you have kids growing up where zip code determines your outlook in life. That's the kind of stuff. So we have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. Get involved, get engaged in a young person's life, and also look at the systemic issues that are causing us to have to get involved and get engaged in a young person's life. Everybody has greatness in them. We're not here to save anybody. We're simply here to give them access to the greatness that already existed inside. It would be great if we lived in a world where that was self-evident to them from the day that they were born.
Awesome. All right, just like my Uncle George, who wants to follow Byron?
Damn. So, I just had to do that. So, you know, I think Byron hit on something, and what I was going to say is just spend, if I had my wish for a year to make Dallas, I think, start moving towards its full potential. Just spend one day, every citizen, one day, volunteering and getting in the game. And I say that whether that's spending a day by yourself and or with coworkers, particularly if you're a leader, find ways to get your organizations engaged and spend one day at a nonprofit, a food bank, a homeless shelter, domestic violence shelter, anything that impacts someone's life, whether that's picking up trash in a community, working side by side with neighborhoods to deal with problems that have persisted for years. Just spend one day, dedicate one day, that party that you want to have around Christmas and the gift exchanges that you do. Don't do that one year and use those dollars and spend time in an afternoon serving lunch to homeless individuals through some other organization. I say that to say that it's easy to drive down the street and stop at a light and see a panhandler and you don't give, which I would encourage you not to give. Give to programs that will work to help those individuals, to keep them from having to panhandle. I encourage you, when you drive by and you see a homeless individual in a tent and or sleeping on the street, not to just drive by, but figure out where you can go and get engaged in what's going on in this city to try to eliminate those issues, whether it's fighting on the front lines with the systemic things that deal with why individuals in some cases end up homeless. It's because they may have been previously incarcerated and they cannot find a place to live and or rent because they can't pass a background check, or they can't get a job because they don't have a driver's license for a job that they don't even need a driver's license to have. And so there are all kinds of things, as Byron mentioned, that go on that don't impact you directly, that you don't think about. You just see the impacts of it. But find a way to get involved with some organization in this community. Because I think through that strength, through that engagement, I think our entire community will benefit. And the people that are suffering in many cases, who at one point in their life may have sat in an auditorium just like this, listening to someone much smarter than me, but for the one instance that happened in their lives, they are not able to do the things that they used to do. And so again, I would say, just spend one day doing that. And if everybody in this 1.3 million population city would do that, we'd have a much closer community and stronger community. And I think, again, those things will trickle down back to our kids as it relates to the things that they, in some cases, don't have any choice but to do and experience things that adults have to deal with.
Love it. We'll go with Chris, and then we'll end, since it's the Bigs and Blue Summit, with the blue sitting on the stage. So Chris, do you want to comment real quick?
I believe it is my hope for this community to understand you have two choices. You can mentor children, or you need to make yourself ready to arrest them. Because you've got to reach them. You've got to go outside. You've got to, there's no way around it. The life you live and the blessing that I have, even through this program, is not for me. It's for someone else. So I don't get to take the ball and run at this point and just tuck it away. No, I have to pass it on to someone else because someone has blessed me with it. Gail has told me repeatedly, I could stop buying her handbags and shoes and blah, blah, blah. She says, no, Chris, what you need to do, you have to engage now. Because she was just one person, and she reached out to me. She said the concept she had in mind was like, she just needed a rock. And so I was her rock. And she said, now I've tossed it in the ocean. You have no idea all of the ripple effect that some of the things you're gonna do have to affect everyone else. And so I'm on the board now. Now my workload is really heavy, so I didn't have the bandwidth to be a one-to-one mentor. So I'm raising money, and I'll keep working, trying to make it possible for other people to do it. So I just think it is my wish that our community, that Dallas-Fort Worth would understand these kids are here, they are coming, whether you're ready or not. And again, you will mentor this child, or you will arrest this child and get into the systemic issues that we're speaking about today.
All right, Chief Spivey, and then Chief Hall.
So I took a peek. You threw up the poll about how engaged you are with your police department. And I peeked back there earlier when it was up there. In this group here, you would think that would be all fives. We have 11% of one in this group. What would that look like if we polled the North Texas region? You want to make a difference, you want to change that narrative, then you have to get involved. I got an email from Big Brothers Big Sisters last week asking for 100 mentors. We need 100 mentors. And I thought to myself, really? This isn't asking for 10,000 mentors. This isn't asking for 5,000 mentors. You're asking 8 million people to provide 100 mentors. It's not a monumental task. all it takes is a willingness to step out of your comfort zone and invest and pour into a life that changes what this narrative is. And that's all of our responsibility.
I think everything has been said. We are branding the Dallas Police Department with "Our excellence begins with you." And so I will tell the residents of the city of Dallas that our excellence begins with you. Exposure is the key to success. Consistency and opportunity. Our youth need to be exposed to things that they would never, under normal circumstances, have an opportunity to see and do in order for them to be able to achieve greatness. If you can't see it, you can't be it. We need to give them an opportunity to work, to play, to experience the lives that each and every one of us in this room have at this point in time. And we have to be consistent in their lives to ensure that what we're pouring into them, we're actually getting a return on that investment. So my pledge to the city is that our excellence begins with you. So then what are you going to do?
Love it. Can we have a round of applause for our incredible I hope everybody in the audience is inspired. I certainly am. I'm just grateful for, in all cases, every single person on here, the genuine servant leadership that you're showing every single day to make this community better. I really want to thank one last group before we part. Got to thank our sponsors, State Farm, Oryx, Velocys, Energy Transfer. Thank you for making our first Bigs at Blue Summit a reality. I see so many of our board members here as well. Just thank you so much for coming and for all you do. We're going to end with one last, I called it a slide dial. I think it's called a Slido question. Which Slido is where you like spam people, I guess. I need to hit my technology terms. Not very impressive for a millennial. All right. After attending the Bigs at Blue Summit today, what one word comes to mind when you think about mentoring? Apparently, there's going to be like a cloud that forms. But if you could part on that note, we will see as we walk out the word cloud form, I suppose, if the Slido technology works. So, thank you all so much. Have a great day. Thank you for your leadership, for all you do, and thank you for taking time to be here.